Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Welcome to the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, with your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. We talk about a lot of things, but today we're going to talk about things you should and shouldn't do after sex. Now, you don't have to jump completely up out of the bed right after sex, which is kind of sort of a little impersonal, and a little, hurt your partner's feelings sometimes. But it is a good thing to at least wash your Netherlands, because this is actually a good thing, just with water and a cloth, because cleaning your areas after sex helps to avoid men and women from getting an infection, especially those irritating UTIs, and everybody knows about those urinary tract infections. And that's actually one of the biggest things that someone will get after sex. Because remember, and especially it's women, because remember, we're built inside, not outside, like a man. So, just wash up lightly. Don't go the full-blown scrub yourself down and everything, because you will irritate your area as well. Now, women, this is for you. Do not douche after sex. A lot of women believe that you should clean the inside of your vagina. But if you douche and do this after sex, you actually may, and for the most part, get an infection, because what you are doing is upsetting the natural balance of bacteria that protects your vagina. So douching is not a very good thing to do after sex. You should just leave it alone, let it do what it's going to do. So I know a lot of people say, they're taught the old way. When you were young, if you had sex, you gotta douche. You gotta clean. You gotta clean the inside and the outside. Actually, you're asking for an infection when you do actually do that. So it's something that you shouldn't do. We all have a natural balance in our body. And when sex is a natural thing, our bodies are made to work with the balancing and putting back into balance our bodies. after certain, actions. Now, with it, keep it, keep it clean. Well, or keep the cleanup of the area after sex simple. That's the best way to explain it. You want to just basically freshen up, take water, wash it down or anything like that. Just warm water will do the trick. Very, very important thing you should do after sex is clear your bladder. Go to the bathroom. Take, a pee, twinkle, urinate, whatever you want to call it. But that is probably one of the best things that you can do, because what your body, when you're doing that, you're actually pushing out bacteria that may have gotten into the bladder. And by urinating right after sex, it actually gets it out of your system. So it's kind of sort of a way to avoid an infection. But, after that, just cuddle. After sex, it's always good to replenish our fluids. Drink lots of water, because you want our pee to come out clean. After sex, another thing that's really nice, wear loose clothing. Gotta let you kind of sort of air out. Not so much air out, but to allow your body to breathe, basically. So, for women, you want to avoid anything that's tight. Same for you men. But it is a way to allow your body to come back down from that hot, sweaty sexual encounter. It allows your body to come down, cool itself down, because bacteria loves to grow in sweaty areas. So this is a way to do that. Just let your body basically air itself out in plain and simple terms. Always, which is one of the most important things that people tell you to do. Doctors will tell you, everybody tells you, best thing to do to avoid infections or anything like that, wash your hands. So you want to definitely wash your hands after sex, because for the most part you're going to want to cuddle and touch, and our hands are breeding grounds. Yuck. If you use sex toys during sex, clean them right after, because you don't want anything in, as nasty as it sounds, but it is true. If you do not clean your sex toys, fungi will grow on it. And we don't want that. We want to be able to use our sex toys again. So give them a gentle washing, which is something that you always should do anyway. But make sure they're clean for the next time. I mean, because they can carry an STD or other infections. So, because it's still your bodily fluids. It's still you're using it in place of the real thing. So whatever your body fluids are going to do, they're going to do. So whatever, it's going to go on to that sex toy. So you really want to clean those and keep them clean so you can use them yet another day. Because we always want that option. Now, very, very important. Obviously, when you think of yeast infections, the first person everybody goes to is a woman. Our bodies are more susceptible to them, but men, you also can get a yeast infection, and you can get it from a woman, and a woman can get one from you. So it's always good to have your daily your yearly checkups or whatever it is, and make sure you don't have any yeast infections. And if you do, either, man or woman, go in the store and buy Monistat. It's like right over the counter. Other than that, call your doctor so that they can prescribe something to you. But make sure that, keep up. Our bodies are so susceptible to almost everything that we really need to watch ourselves. Even though we just want to have fun and enjoy our partners and having sex, it is what it is. It is our body. Now, we always want to be checked for any STDs or AIDS, HIV. Do go to the doctor and get checked. And take extra precaution. If you are not ready to get pregnant, then take precautions for that. I know that a lot of people love to have sex when you're pregnant, and it seems to be one of the women, when we're pregnant, can either be extremely horny or don't want to be bothered. And I know a lot of guys will not have sex with their pregnant partner. But I'm just going to leave that as a small tease, because we're going to take a break here. So get your drink, get your snack, come back, get comfy, and we'll continue this conversation after the break.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, with your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Now, at the end of the last segment, kind of left you hanging on is having sex when your partner is pregnant actually safe? Believe it or not, it actually is. You're not going to hurt the baby. I know some of the myths are, on the man's point of view, is, oh, I'm going to hit him in the head and give him brain damage, and you're not going to do that. Our bodies as women were built for pregnancy and to carry and bear children. The cervix is very thick. So technically what you're hitting is still the cervix. I mean, this really all depends on the woman as well. In the beginning of the pregnancy, you're not showing, it's new, all of that, and you're still going at it, quietly strong at that. As time goes on and your partner gets bigger and her belly starts to grow, it becomes a little bit more difficult. It's really dependent upon the woman. If the woman is or has raging hormones when she's pregnant, well, sex all the way through, go for it. Just taking care to, as your stomach gets bigger, it gets a little bit harder just to do the missionary style. So you might want to get a little creative on the sexual positions. Doggy style might be helpful. Actually will be helpful. You may find it where laying on your back with your bottom half hanging off a little bit to the edge of the bed where your partner can stand, and it's a little easier for you if you want to remain on your back. It's also, you can lay on your side and have him penetrate you that way. It's finding comfortable spots at each point. I mean, this isn't always the same for all women, because not every woman's hormones when they are pregnant are off the charts. There are women who don't want to be bothered when they're pregnant. They just want to enjoy the pregnancy, or it's very uncomfortable for them. It is safe. It is okay. Just really dependent on the woman, her hormones, and what those hormones are doing to her sex drive while she's pregnant. In the beginning, you may get it where the hormones are all over the place and, oh my God, you can't get enough sex. And as time goes through the pregnancy, those hormones start to come down. It may just be the complete opposite, where in the beginning, you don't want to be bothered. Your hormones are not triggering an overwhelming sex drive. But as your pregnancy goes on, ladies, those hormones may kick in that way. So it's either or with that. It just really depends on your body. But you are not going to hurt the baby by having sex. There are situations where it will be dangerous, but those are particular conditions, and you would need to consult with your OBGYN with that. I mean, it is highly unlikely that sex during a pregnancy will cause a miscarriage. I'm not saying that it has never happened, but it is highly unlikely. Generally, it doesn't make any difference for the health of the pregnancy. If your body's not ready, it's going to reject the pregnancy. If your body's ready, your pregnancy's going full force ahead. And just, take all the proper routes and healthy routes that you need to, and checking in with your doctor and your monthly to weekly to whatever times that you have to go in to see the doctor, how many times. Every OBGYN is different. Every woman is different when she's pregnant. So, you're not going to poke the baby's head or traumatize them with the motions of sex. So, your woman's up to it, go for it. Have all the sex while she's pregnant. Because when the baby's born, you might not get any sleep. So you might take advantage of it. Right now, she's a human pocketbook. So actually, a human baby carrier. Don't have to worry about getting everything together right now. When the baby's born, a lot more responsibility coming in. Right now, we just are making sure that she's healthy, the baby's healthy, and everything is going good. You want to have sex? Go for it. You're at the A-OK. But, however, there are situations. You've got to take into account she is pregnant, and things, not that anybody wants to hear them, can go wrong. But nothing's showing right then and there, and then when you have sex, something happens. It is not your fault. It's probably a good thing you figured it out, because there might have been something wrong, and just so happens that you found it out through sex. But there are conditions in which if you had sex, can, injure the baby or the fetus. Baby, I like it, because if you're far along in your pregnancy, it's a little bambino in there. So, you got to remember the baby is surrounded by a fluid, the amniotic fluid, and it functions as a cushion, a water cushion, and the cervix is very thick. So it is helping to protect the baby in that manner as well. So you're basically hitting her cervix. But there are a few things, if your doctor is already aware of it, they will tell you not to have sex, where, one is placenta previa. This is where the placenta is too low and it comes down over the cervix as opposed to being behind the baby. Having sex during that condition can cause bleeding. So that's not very good, because the cervix, if you poke the cervix too hard, you could damage that placenta. And we don't want to do that, because the baby is getting their nourishment through that to the umbilical cord to them, and that's what that's attached to. Cervical incompetence. That means that the cervix dilates or becomes too thin too early in the pregnancy, and having sex can send your partner into preterm labor. And if it's way too early in their pregnancy, that there's a lot of other things that will come in that, and I would don't want to say those things. So there are conditions, there are several of them, where having sex, it will be problematic, but your doctor should already know about it. So basically, if you don't have something that is pressingly wrong, and keeping heed to signs here and there, and most women know when they're pregnant, if you get spotting of blood, go to the doctor. But go ahead, if your hormones are raging, shoot, take advantage of it. Have sex throughout your whole pregnancy, or until you can't anymore, because us as women, our hormones, definitely when we're pregnant, will shift on us without us even knowing. But if that's what you want, you're not going to hurt the baby, man. You're not going to poke their head or anything. We are insulation for the baby. We were made for that. So, we're going to take a break here. And when we come back, we're going to get even more somewhat disgusting, somewhat not. And we'll talk about having sex when your partner's on her period. So replenish our drink, replenish your snack, come back, get comfortable, and I'll be back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network with your host Andra, with a topic about sex. This from the point of view of an older woman. Now, we ended the last segment where, we're talking about sex when you're pregnant. And then we're going to talk about having sex while your partner's on her period. Now, just to touch a little bit back on that subject, and this is something for you men, where, believe it or not, just a positive tidbit, sperm has surprising benefits during pregnancy, believe it or not. It actually is believed by the experts that sperm, those little wigglers, might be able to prevent preeclampsia and cure morning sickness. So think about that, men, when you're having sex with your pregnant partner, because you're giving her some health benefits there. So spread the wealth. And let's get into our next topic of having sex while she's on her period. Having sex while she's on her period? Here are some tips, benefits, side effects. You can have sex while she's on her period. Some people are squeamish over it. Other people like it. It's added lubrication. Thinking about it, it just seems real messy. So it's really of choice. You don't need to avoid sexual activities, but totally a choice thing to do. Now, one of the benefits there are to having sex while you're on your period. It's been believed that it's supposed to relieve cramps by a woman engaging in the sexual act and coming to full orgasm. The act in the orgasm is supposed to relieve cramps. So, because you're actually that contraction, the muscle in the uterus, that orgasm is helping the contractions and all of this to kind of counteract cramps. But it is also known to relieve chemicals, the endorphins, and it makes you feel good, which is why most people will say that having sex relieves a headache. So, that's another thing that I said, because basically what you're doing is opening up all your blood vessels. You're triggering your endorphins to work overdrive, which is a pain relief. Another benefit is that having sex during your period actually shortens your period. And this is done because muscles contractions during an orgasms during an orgasm, push out the uterine contents faster. So those contractions from the orgasm is pushing more out. So your period has a shorter time, lifespan. It also is a benefit to increase sex drive. Your libido changes as a woman throughout our menstrual cycle, which we all know because our hormones are going wacky tobacky and they're fluctuating all over the place. So this is why your sex drive increases when you have sex during your period. I mean, our sex drive alone increases during ovulation. So, if you're looking at it in that respect, then because you know you're having sex all the way up and until your period, you're kind of working those hormones and that hormonal level. So, women have been found to say that they are feeling more turned on during their period because of that. Like I said in the beginning, natural lubrication. Again, having sex during your period, or because believe it or not, most women, they can relate to this, have major migraines during menstrual cycle. And there are times when they have their menstrual cycle, their period, their headache is relieved. So, if you are having sex, you really should think about this. Because if they're saying that sex relieves headaches and you're not on your period, imagine what it's doing when you're on your period. It's helping your cramps, it's shortening your period, it's getting rid of the headache, it's increasing your sex drive. I mean, there's a lot of things going on here. Now, with every benefit, there's usually always that lovely side effects to that. Obviously, what the doctors are saying is the biggest downside to having sex during your period is a mess, obviously. But blood can get on you, your partner, the sheets, everywhere. And most women have a heavy flow. So now you really need to be very self-conscious because this is blood you're dealing with. And as with blood, because it is a bloodborne pathogen, or blood is one of the highest things to carry sexually transmitted diseases like HIV or hepatitis, we are more likely to, through the blood of of a woman's period, is these diseases, infections will be transmitted because it is blood. There's no way of sugarcoating that. There's no way of anything other than that. It just happens to be. Just take care. Practice safe sex. If you are going to have sex, while she's on her period, think of some things, that ways to kind of sort of help to avoid that. Other than that, just abstinence from from sex while she's on her period is probably the best thing. Believe it or not, another thing is question that always poses people, oh, I got my period, I can't get pregnant, blah, blah, blah. You can actually get pregnant when you are on your period and have sex. Some women double ovulate. Believe it or not, there are women out there that have 2 uteruses. I actually used to know one. So this is not an obsolete thing. It is not something that cannot not happen. It can happen. So you got to think of it. I said it earlier, as usual. If you are going to do this because it is blood, use some protection. So, but do clean up after. Take the sheets off. Make sure everything's copacetic. There are some tips about having sex while she's on her period. Be open and honest, as usual. Let them know how you feel about having sex while you're on your period. Most women, or a good amount of women, like to use tampons. If you have decided to have sex while you're on your period, please take that out. Not a very good thing for the guy. Put dark towels everywhere, or dark, whatever, don't use white, because this is much easier to pick up the blood, to wash, and doesn't show up. It is a way of just really avoiding a royal mess. Always keep a washcloth or wipes next to the bed for after, because you definitely need to clean up in this situation. And again, wear a condom. If you feel comfortable having sex on your period, do it. Some people like it, other people don't. It is really a preference. So, take heed. They're there. It's not an omen, a bad omen, shall I say. But do make sure that you communicate that that's what you want to do. You both feel comfortable. Take the precautions because it is blood. and have fun. So we are at the end of my segment. As usual, practice safe sex. If not for your partner, for yourself, but do enjoy. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.